July is Disability Pride Month. And I actually thought that was intersectionality of pride, gay pride, and disability, but no, it is disability pride. And I would like to encourage you to watch Crip Camp. I do believe that this should be required for all humans to watch this, from kids to seniors. And Crip Camp, I'd heard of it before. I thought, oh, was it a gang thing? I don't know. And but yes, and this is the origin story for disability progress, disability movement. And we get to learn Judy Newman's background, and she is a hero, and was one of the disability advisors. Can't remember her exact title for Obama. And I'm so excited about this. So the premise is there was a camp in 1971, Camp Junaid, and in the Catskills, and it was more hippie oriented, and people with disabilities were invited out there. And there's a scene where you have a lot of people in wheelchairs, and it's a baseball game, and you're just expected to play. So what if you don't have legs? So we'll carry you. I mean, just like there's a lot of sentiment is that people have put restrictions on people with disabilities, but when they're supporting each other, they can do anything. And it was so neat to have people carrying each other and and I think that if we can learn from this documentary and see how people with disabilities treat each other. They are so open-minded and just, incredible. For example, there is a gentleman who has polio, and he's rather able-bodied. His legs are not functional, and he's in a wheelchair, but he's more physically able than a lot of the other people. But he was embarrassed because he has to wear diapers, and he's 15 years old, and he's embarrassed about that. But then again, he's thinking, well, everybody else has something, like, and it was okay. It's like, this is a place where you can go and you're accepted. And I think about Burning Man, where going to Burning Man, you hear a lot of people saying, oh, in the default world, talking about just normal life. But in Burning Man, it's imaginary land. You can do all these things. You can be the opposite sex. You can experiment with whatever. And so I see this as a place for people with disabilities who are around other people with disabilities, where they can just be and be free and be accepted. And they're likely not going to be made fun of in a bad kind of way. There's also Fire Island, which is a movie, Joel Kim Booster, recently, and it's a gay movie. So gay characters going to a gay camp. Similarly, where I think it's like, oh, they can just be gay and just be themselves. So Crip Camp, a couple of their stories in here. They go and they did a sit-in at a federal building, and at 28 days, that's the longest sit-in to history to take over a federal building. And you're talking about people who are in wheelchairs, cerebral palsy, different abilities. Some are blind, some don't hear. And so they are in this building, sleeping on the floor. They don't have their aides, the people who help change them, or help move them on the bed so they don't get bed sores. And you have these dedicated people who are fighting for fairness. And yet, this is like having them go camp without any supplies. And it just shows the dedication and the fight. And I think, as an activist that I am becoming, I guess, it's just so inspiring. And then they also went to the Capitol building. So they went to DC, and you have all these people in wheelchairs who are paraplegics, and they're climbing up the stairs. And some of them are carrying their wheelchairs on their back, and they're just climbing, and they're so dedicated. And and there weren't that many people. It was like, let's see, I think 150 people or so. And it's inspiring because 150 people, and Judy, their leader, they got things done. fighting for a long time, and just with that small quantity, they got the law passed, ADA passed. But one of the folks was saying, hey, law passed doesn't mean anything if the society doesn't change. And if these laws to provide ramps, to provide accessibility, they don't matter unless society changes. But also if these laws are there but not reinforced, that's not great. And to go back to the Capitol, when these paraplegics were like slithering and climbing and sweating and just trying to make it to the top of these stairs, there was no transportation because there was no accessibility for transportation. So they got a truck was donated. So all these wheelchairs are in the back of this truck, just kind of freewheeling and in the dark in order to get there. And you think of all the things that they have to go through to fight for this law. And it's just, but I think so really empowering, but also as an Asian American trying to get people to listen to me and to listen to other Asians is a steep climb. But to see that these 150 dedicated people with disabilities made that happen, I'm like, okay. There are a lot more Asians who are speaking up, but we're just not heard. So fantastic documentary. And I think we can learn a lot from this documentary and the movement, and just to step into other people's shoes or seats, or understand what you can't understand, but just, I think when we can hear their stories. Oh, okay. Another time. So they have these at Camp Junaid when these are teenagers, they're talking, and there was a person with cerebral palsy. And it, to me, I didn't understand it at all. It didn't sound like there were words, but the other guy who was able to understand what she was saying and then translate, and we were able to hear him. And it was just so lovely to hear all this teamwork and all the different perspectives. And then when they took over that federal building for the 28 days, the Black Panthers, they reached out to the Black Panthers. Black Panthers brought them food and made them food, and just the different groups helped out. It was just so incredible. And finally, I did see an Asian. There was one Asian in this group, so represented. So Crip Camp, 5 stars, 10 stars. This should be part of curriculum.